You've probably dreamed at least once of having more than 24 hours in a day. The MC of this story is just such a lucky man. The god of time, Kronos, gave Jong Heng an incredible gift. Time freezes at the end of the day for everyone except him, and he gains an additional 24 hours, when he can do whatever he wants. In exchange, our hero must act as the agent for the god of time and participate in a dangerous game each month. Let's find out how it all started. The MC of this story is named Jong Heng, and he is an ordinary student of Southeast University. Like all students, he lived quietly in the dormitory, following all the rules. He didn't expect that when the dorm manager checked his locker, he would find magazines with naked girls in it. Uncle Liu was also surprised and didn't understand how such a thing could happen. Heng remained silent and wasn't going to answer. Everyone knew that he didn't play games, didn't date girls, and devoted all his time to studying, researching, and all that. Uncle Liu had even heard that Heng's parents were professors who were researching religions. So why did he follow such a wrong path? Uncle Liu was sure that this university was a holy environment where students should study, and he would not tolerate such disgusting things. It was unacceptable to him. As dorm manager, he decided to confiscate it all. Also, such things could not be hidden, and he was going to report it to the higher-ups to make sure that Heng would get disciplinary action. This scenario did not please Heng at all, and he asked him to wait a moment while he called to confirm something. Heng called Jiang, although he was reluctant to do so. When Jiang answered, he was surprised to receive a call from Heng. Heng inquired whether Jiang's belongings were still in Heng's cabinet. Jiang realized he had forgotten to retrieve them and explained that he had placed them there because Heng's mother had been checking the dormitory forms. Heng then asked how Jiang had managed to open his cabinet. Jiang replied that he had seen a truck open it, so he attempted the same method, and it worked. Heng was shocked and told Liu that he had checked and found the situation, so Heng wouldn't accept responsibility and would instead initiate disciplinary action. Jiang, already suffering from the repercussions, asked for Heng's help and questioned if Heng wanted to see him expelled from school. Jiang then offered Heng a chance to go on a trip the next day with several attractive girls. After ending the call, Liu asked if there was anything else Heng needed to explain. Heng declined and thought about how it was a laboratory day again, a perfect opportunity for some fun. However, his life felt too monotonous, as he had been preoccupied with legends and myths since childhood due to his parents' influence. Heng went to the library to pass the time. He used 4 dice to choose a section and a book. When he finally found the book, a girl also reached for it. He offered her the book, but she seemed frightened and quickly ran away. Heng thought he didn't mind if people were scared of his appearance. He just needed to spend a few hours away from the outside world, enjoying some peace and solitude. Heng noticed Jiang sitting under a table, eating potato chips, which was not allowed in the library. Heng asked when Jiang had arrived and why he was eating chips. Jiang explained that he had been waiting for Heng because Heng hadn't responded to his messages on WeChat. Heng found Jiang's persistence irritating and inquired how Jiang knew he would be at the library. Jiang replied that, as roommates, he knew Heng's habits well. Heng suspected that Jiang had come to ask if he would join the trip, but Jiang clarified that wasn't the case. Instead, Jiang pointed out that despite Heng having everything and being smart, he was still single. He suggested that Heng should go outside and get some fresh air. Jiang then mentioned he liked a girl who was going to a party and asked Heng to be his wingman, while continuing to eat chips noisily, which annoyed others. Jiang told Heng to be ready at 11:30 at the back gate of the school. Frustrated but resigned, Heng agreed to go. At night, Heng was reading a book while standing. Jiang arrived to take him to the party as his wingman. Jiang, with trembling hands, offered Heng a piece of gum, telling him not to be nervous. Heng assured him that he wasn't nervous and questioned why Jiang's hands were shaking and why he didn't have a girlfriend. Jiang urged Heng to stop asking questions and just come along. Upon arriving, they found the party in full swing. Someone commented that Jiang was late. Jiang pointed to a girl and asked Heng for his opinion on her. Heng wondered why Jiang was asking, and then approached the girl to apologize for being late. Heng wasn't feeling well, having eaten some expired potato chips, so he excused himself to the bathroom, fearing his stomach might explode. As Heng sat down to read his book, the girl approached him and asked if he was Jiang's roommate and if he enjoyed reading books. She moved closer and asked if he visited the library, revealing that she also liked reading and had seen him at the library before. Heng wondered about her intentions and whether she might be interested in him. As the girl moved closer, Heng decided it was best not to get involved. He drank some alcohol and soon started feeling dizzy. He attempted to leave the party, but the girl grabbed his hand, offering to help. Heng declined, but as he tried to move, he slipped, causing the girl to fall onto him. At that moment, Jiang arrived. Heng thought this was precisely why he disliked reality. When he opened his eyes, he found that everything had stopped in place. He tried to move Jiang, but he was immobile, just like everyone else. Even when Heng attempted to slap Jiang, it caused him pain. Everything around him was in black and white, except for a man who appeared to be frozen in mid-motion, holding a phone. Heng asked the man who he was. Checking his own phone, Heng noticed it was still set to selfie mode. The man screamed loudly, startling Heng, and then took a selfie, laughing and praising Heng's reaction. Heng inquired about the man's identity. The man revealed that he was Kronos, the god of time. Kronos asked Heng to look at his clock, which showed the dials had doubled. Heng wondered if he was living through additional hours. Kronos confirmed that Heng currently had 48 extra hours. Heng was shocked and questioned why Kronos, a stranger to him, was giving him such time. Kronos then showed Heng a photo of himself with Heng's parents and explained that he was an old acquaintance who had been asked by Heng's parents to look after him. Kronos decided to explain something to Heng. Heng opened the door and suggested they go outside to see what the world looked like when time was stopped. Kronos was surprised by how easily Heng accepted the situation. As they stepped outside, Heng saw that everything and everyone was frozen. He remembered thinking about such possibilities as a child and was amazed that it had become a reality. Heng and Kronos had a great time exploring the world together. Kronos rode a bike, and Heng rode alongside him on a bicycle. Using his powers, Kronos made potato chips fly into Heng's mouth. After their fun, they boarded a bus, and Heng found the experience incredibly refreshing. Kronos revealed that there would be a new surprise for Heng the next day. When Heng asked what it was, Kronos said it was getting late and suggested they discuss it the following day. Heng wondered why Kronos was making him guess. Kronos instructed him to meet at the school's sports field. As Kronos prepared to leave, Heng thanked him, and then Kronos disappeared, leaving the clock to resume its normal state and time to continue. Heng was stunned, realizing he had forgotten that the world's frozen state would end after the extra 24 hours. He noticed the bus conductor was angry at him for boarding the bus late. Heng apologized for the inconvenience. Heng returned to the dorm and thought he might have to spend the night alone, but he was looking forward to some relaxation. He locked his room and lay down, wondering if Kronos had something exciting planned for him the next day. Meanwhile, in an abandoned building, Kronos was awake and bit his finger, allowing a few drops of blood to fall. This action revealed a hidden monster that had been lying in wait. The monster attempted to capture Kronos, but he skillfully dodged it, asserting that he wasn't weak and the monster wouldn't be able to catch him easily. Kronos reassured the monster that it should not worry, as he was still valuable, and the next prey would be significantly different and more satisfying. Heng dreamt that he was locked in a room with someone knocking on the door, insisting he come out or be trapped in the room forever. As the gate slowly creaked open, a monster's voice invited him to play. Heng woke up with a start, realizing it was 3:05 a.m. He decided to get out of bed and go meet Kronos. Heng noticed something placed in his room and wondered where it had come from. Just then, Jiang appeared from behind, saying it was for Heng. Heng, frustrated, slapped Jiang. Jiang tried to calm him, mentioning that they had drunk a lot and Heng might be hungry. Heng, in a hurry, demanded to know what was going on. Jiang explained that he wanted to make amends and asked Heng to join him. Heng was annoyed, thinking Jiang was trying to make up for something. Jiang reassured him that it wasn't his fault, but that the girl was leaving the country the next day and asked Heng to come along. Heng replied that he had no interest in that. Jiang called Heng heartless. Heng then noticed that his book was missing and asked where it was. Jiang showed him the book and said he would return it only if Heng agreed to come with him. After some consideration, Heng agreed to go for just half an hour. Jiang thanked him profusely. As Heng was about to leave, Jiang asked him to eat the food that had been left behind. Heng said he would eat it after returning. Just as Heng grabbed the door handle, he discovered a gun had been stuck into it. Jiang admitted he had forgotten to bring the keys. Heng, now even more frustrated, scolded Jiang for being so troublesome. Jiang had hidden his items in the cabinet, hoping to avoid disciplinary action, and asked Heng to be his wingman before rushing to the bathroom. Heng questioned if Jiang knew how to knock, to which Jiang replied that he had knocked several times, but the loud noise had disturbed the neighbors, and Heng hadn't woken up. After retrieving his book, Heng left and arrived where Kronos was waiting for him. Kronos observed that Heng seemed to have had a rough time. Heng asked what was going on and said he was ready to proceed with their plans. Kronos told Heng to stomp on the paper box in front of him and assured him he would be surprised later. As Heng prepared to step on it, Kronos urged him to hurry. Heng felt a sharp pain in his foot as he pressed down and discovered an iron nail in the box. He questioned if it was a prank, but Kronos said Heng would still be able to walk despite the injury. Annoyed, Heng threatened to kick Kronos as well. As they moved a little further, Jiang expressed his relief. But suddenly, a monster attacked the floor where Heng was standing. Heng leaped to avoid the monster and wondered what it was. Kronos asked if Heng didn't want the excitement that reality lacked, suggesting that this was the kind of thrill Heng had been seeking. Kronos told Heng to survive the encounter as the monster began to chase him. As Heng ran, he saw a man on the phone and shouted for him to call the police. The monster struck, causing time to freeze and everyone to float in midair. Heng spotted familiar objects and felt the surreal nature of the situation. Kronos took the opportunity to snap a photo, commenting on Heng's distressed expression. Heng warned Kronos that if he didn't escape, he would drag Kronos into the situation as well. Kronos revealed that Heng was the only target. While riding his bike, Kronos recorded Heng on video. Heng, struggling to believe Kronos' claims that he was there to look after him at his parents' request, was frustrated. Kronos reassured him that they were old acquaintances and that he would manage the situation, offering a friendly reminder. He explained that the monster was known as the Realityless. Annoyed, Heng kicked Kronos and took the bike, determined to leave the area. Kronos commented on how interesting the situation was, further aggravating Heng. The monster continued to chase Heng relentlessly. He spotted a building, dashed inside, and locked the gate behind him. Even with chains securing the door, the monster attacked it furiously, demanding Heng come out. Heng was reminded of his earlier dream where he had been trapped in a room, but he shook off the fear and noticed that the monster seemed to be fading away. Heng concluded that the monster was blocked from entering, and that he would need to stay put for 24 hours, hoping someone would come to rescue him. Meanwhile, Kronos arrived at the scene and saw that the bike had been broken into 2 pieces. He wondered if Heng had hidden in the library. Kronos considered that Heng might have gone inside, but he also knew that the monster wouldn't be able to invade the library, even if it was a whole building. As Heng walked through the building, strange tentacles suddenly emerged from the roof, adding to his mounting anxiety. The tentacles released a corrosive liquid that began to melt the floor. Heng watched in horror as the tentacles spread further into the building. Outside, Kronos observed, curious about how long Heng would last against the monster's onslaught. Heng rushed to the door, but it was blocked. Desperately, he tried to open the emergency exit, but it wouldn't budge. He used a nearby cylinder to smash the door, but despite several attempts, it remained closed. The tentacles drew nearer, and Heng, in a panic, overturned a bookshelf to create a barricade, but the tentacles continued to advance. Realizing that more objects slowed the melting process, Heng quickly formulated a plan. Kronos, watching from outside, reflected on how, in games, victory brought excitement. He wondered how Heng was faring, and noted that if Heng were to die like this, it would be a pity. Kronos was determined not to let Heng off so easily. Inside, Heng's stomach growled from hunger. He checked his supplies and realized he had been without food for 40 hours, with only the gum Jiang had given him as sustenance. He worried that he might be consumed by the monster or perish from starvation. Heng was reminded of his past, where he had been relentlessly teased by other students. Suddenly, his phone made a sound, and he wondered if the time freeze had ended. Checking his phone, he saw the battery was running low. He found a message from Jiang, mentioning that the girl liked him and wanted to talk, with Jiang offering to help her. Heng thought back to everything Jiang had done to arrange their meeting. He also recalled moments from his past when he had been alone in his room, feeling isolated and mocked by others. The next morning, someone knocked on the door. Heng, still frightened, hesitated, but eventually replied that he was scared. The voice outside asked to borrow a myth novel that Heng owned. When Heng opened the door, he found it was Jiang, who was from a neighboring class and had come to visit him for the first time. Jiang suggested they go somewhere else and encouraged Heng not to stay in his room all the time. Overwhelmed with emotion, Heng cried and expressed his desire to go outside and take a walk. He grabbed the gun, recalling Jiang's advice about using it to unlock doors. Determined to leave his current predicament, Heng resolved to escape and make his way out. Heng made the decision to go back. He pushed the bookshelves aside and dashed over them, leaving his book behind. He felt a surge of courage as he approached the door, finding it wasn't too difficult to open. Outside, Kronos waited, growing impatient as the time dragged on. He called out, questioning if Heng had heard him and if he had truly perished. Kronos wondered if Heng had been digested and left with nothing. In a frantic rush, Heng emerged with the cylinder, aiming to attack Kronos, believing that defeating the summoner might help him escape. However, his attempt was futile, and he stumbled and fell. Kronos, observing Heng's desperate and reckless behavior, realized that Heng was truly seeking an end to his torment. Despite the chaos, Kronos acknowledged Heng's efforts and declared that he had passed the test. Kronos approached Heng as the monster appeared behind him. Realizing the creature was now irrelevant, Kronos reduced it to ashes with a wave of his hand. Heng was astonished by the sudden display of power. Kronos explained that the monster was part of a test for successors, so Heng need not worry too much about it. Heng was confused and asked for a clearer explanation. Kronos elaborated that humans often focus solely on their own benefits and engage in conflicts with other races to gain control over the world. The continuous fighting and killing were deemed too primitive, so a new method was devised to determine winners and losers through games. Successors like Heng would participate in these games. Heng questioned whether Kronos had chosen him as a successor, especially after nearly killing him. Kronos acknowledged the concern for safety and admitted that becoming a successor and participating in such games involved risks, including life-threatening dangers. He noted that previous successors had perished at the hands of monsters, but Heng, being much stronger and seeking excitement in reality, was suited for the role. Therefore, Kronos confirmed that Heng would become his successor. Kronos continued, telling Heng that as a successor, he would receive substantial rewards and experience many more exciting games compared to that day's ordeal. Heng agreed and, in a moment of camaraderie, punched Kronos playfully, causing him to fall. Kronos asked why Heng had done that, and whether he was rejecting the role of successor. Heng replied that it was merely a greeting to mark their new partnership. He assured Kronos not to worry, and then left, as he had other matters to attend to. As Heng approached the coffee shop, he noticed the time was 00:00 and wondered if the girl had already left. Despite knowing he needed to be there, he decided to take a quick shower before heading over. Upon arriving, he saw the girl, and they both entered the coffee shop together. She expressed how pleased she was to see him again, and Heng felt a surge of happiness, appreciating her feelings. After their conversation, Heng thanked her and prepared to leave. Unbeknownst to him, Zhang was sitting nearby, observing the scene from a hidden spot. Heng was driven to a location by a man who, before leaving, told him that he wasn't there to treat him to drinks, but needed Heng to participate in the game. He wished Heng good luck. Heng suspected that the man had dubious intentions and decided it was pointless to dwell on it, so he entered the location. Upon entering, he found himself in a 3D imaging area designed to conceal the identities of the participants. He approached a woman and expressed his desire to join the game. The woman congratulated him, stating that he would be participating in the greatest game in history, one that would change his life. Heng inquired about the nature of the game, and she suggested he experience it to understand its appeal. She then asked if he was ready and handed him a drink, urging him to consume it. As Heng drank, he felt a strange sensation and soon lost consciousness. The woman told him to enjoy the game. When Heng opened his eyes, he found himself on a beach on a mysterious island. He wondered how he had ended up on such an enigmatic island, and whether Kronos had involved him in some sort of game. Furious, Heng resolved to seek revenge once he returned. He felt extremely hungry, and after walking a short distance, he spotted numerous crabs scuttling around. He managed to catch one, and upon eating it, realized he was in an illusion. It was raw crab. Determined to make a fire, he discovered that all his small items were missing, and wondered if he would have to rely on traditional methods. He gathered some dry wood and used a stick to try and create a fire by rolling it over another piece of wood, a technique he had read about in books. After several minutes of effort, he injured his hand. He then decided to modify his approach by tying a stick to a rope, creating a bow-like tool to generate friction. After working at it for an hour, he finally saw some smoke. Excited, he carefully placed the embers into some dry grass. As the grass began to burn, he felt a surge of happiness. Suddenly, the weather changed dramatically. Dark clouds gathered, and rain started pouring down with flashes of lightning. As he protected the fragile fire, he ran in search of shelter. In his frantic search for shelter, Heng found a cave and noticed that the fire he had managed to start was still burning on the dry grass. Inside the cave, he encountered a group of vampires, prompting him to retreat and cover himself with long leaves. Feeling disheartened, he reflected on how he had spent an entire day lighting the fire, only to face such misfortune. The next day, the rain ceased, but Heng remained famished, having had nothing to eat. He found the shellfish he had caught was meaty, but unpleasantly fishy and foul-smelling, and he struggled to keep it down. Suddenly, he heard screaming and saw some men floating near the beach. He wondered if they were NPCs from the game, but decided not to worry about it. Removing his shirt, he went to help one of the men, whose stamina was critically low. The man, who introduced himself as Ai, an explorer, requested water. Heng offered him coconut water, which Ai drank sparingly before handing the remainder back to Heng. When Heng asked why he hadn't drunk more, Ai explained that drinking too much coconut water could cause diarrhea, so he preferred to avoid the risk. Heng was taken aback by this information. Ai then pointed out that they would need a fire for purifying water and cooking food in such a place. Heng mentioned that he had eaten and drunk 3 coconuts that morning, and his stomach was hurting as a result. They spent 2 more days there, and on the 3rd day, the wood had dried out enough to catch a fire. By the afternoon, Heng was still struggling with stomach pain, but remained determined. As evening approached, he only needed to spin the stick a bit longer as some smoke was already forming. By nightfall, sparks finally appeared, and Ai encouraged Heng to continue and transfer the sparks to the tinder. Despite his severe stomach pain, Heng persisted, but the tool broke in the process. Ai gave him a pep talk, advising him to stay calm and not to panic. Heng asked Ai to be quiet and expressed a desire to be alone for a while. Alone, Heng felt more relaxed and began to feel better. He sat on the beach, worried that Ai might be upset with him. He wondered if his behavior would lead to his demise if he continued like this. Meanwhile, Ai heard the sound of roaring beasts and noticed that Heng had been gone for an unusually long time. Concerned, Ai decided to search for Heng. Ai found Heng quietly working on the fire using the same method and finally managed to get it going. Ai approached, offering praise and noting that Heng's efforts were a testament to survival skills. Heng admitted that he had been too impatient. Afterward, they both sat together, cooking the crabs. Heng expressed his surprise at being able to eat cooked food, something he hadn't thought possible. Just then, a screen panel appeared in front of Heng, displaying his achievement of lighting the fire. Heng noticed that Ai had a hand injury and asked about it. Ai explained that it was from an accident and could become infected. Heng offered to help, and Ai mentioned a herb he had heard of that could kill germs and heal wounds. If they found it, they might still have a chance to survive. Otherwise, Ai could be in danger within a month. Heng recalled how Ai had helped him count the dates on the wall and had become very practical, even knowing how to make survival tools. Determined to help, Heng searched for the herb Ai needed but was unsuccessful. and Ai's condition continued to worsen. Despite this, Heng managed to catch a fish with a spear while standing in the water near the beach. Excited, he ran to show Ai and mentioned that he had already eaten one, leaving the other for Ai. Ai enjoyed the fish and found it delicious. Heng expressed his gratitude, saying that the survival techniques he learned from Ai had been crucial for his survival on the deserted island. Ai encouraged Heng to not just stop at surviving, but to aim to conquer the island and explore other places. Heng then apologized to Ai, acknowledging that although Ai had taught him many valuable things, he had not yet found the herb Ai needed. Ai replied that it was fine and took the fish Heng had caught. Heng was shocked that Ai knew he hadn't eaten it. Ai explained that Heng's lack of the smell of cooked fish gave it away. Heng felt embarrassed by this. He then asked Ai which place he meant, but Ai did not respond. When Heng pressed for an answer, he realized that Ai had died. Heng discovered that he had an additional 480 days and that the game would start at 11 p.m., with an extra 24 hours added after an hour. He was terrified at the thought of dying there and failing to escape. He felt overwhelmed by the situation. Suddenly, Heng heard Ai's voice. When he looked, he saw Ai floating with a glowing aura. Ai spoke about how some people died on the island while others succeeded with pride, reminding Heng not to forget his previous advice. Heng asked if Ai was encouraging him to conquer the island. Ai affirmed this and encouraged Heng to do so. The next day, Heng buried Ai and vowed not to disappoint him. He resolved to conquer the island and honor Ai's memory. Afterwards, Heng tried to catch some birds for variety in his diet but was unsuccessful. He thought that eating fish every day would become monotonous, so he wanted something different. He went back to fishing, but when he arrived, he saw people had come again. As he rested, he noted that waking up early didn't necessarily make others dislike you. He greeted a boy who was constructing a small house and discovered a small farm with chickens. Heng admired the peaceful life and wondered if the boy might end up like Ai. Heng informed the boy that he was going hunting. Equipped with a bow and arrows, he saw some birds and was impressed by the boy's archery skills. He managed to hit one and brought it back to the boy. Meanwhile, the boy was holding a spear. Heng then noticed a giant red snake attacking the chickens. Heng attempted to shoot the snake with his bow and arrows, but the boy stopped him, explaining that arrows would have no effect on the snake. As the snake advanced towards them, Heng asked if the boy was okay. The boy suddenly began running and told Heng to follow suit. They both hurried inside the house and closed the door behind them. Heng was upset about losing the chickens they had raised. The boy mentioned that they would need to eat the snake. Heng agreed to take on the task of killing the snake for sure. They both dug a large hole and rested afterward. The boy explained that this was part of their plan for hunting the snake. Heng expressed his confidence in the plan, and they discussed how to lure the snake into the trap. 5 days later, Heng waited for the snake, wondering if the boy had managed to capture any wild animals in the meantime. He heard a loud noise and thought the snake might have fallen into the trap. Rushing to investigate, he was shocked to find the boy had been captured by the snake. The boy explained that he had come to check the trap and hadn't anticipated that the snake was lying in wait. The snake's tail coiled around the boy, causing him great pain. The boy urged Heng to escape, but Heng refused to flee, remembering his loss of Ai. Determined, Heng attacked the snake with a spear, freeing the boy. He then challenged the snake to fight him without weapons. The snake pursued Heng aggressively. The boy, confused by Heng's actions, watched as Heng led the snake towards the trap. As the snake prepared to bite Heng, the trap was triggered, causing the snake to fall into the hole. Heng, having successfully evaded the snake by discarding his equipment, congratulated himself. He climbed out of the hole and checked on the boy, only to find that he was not breathing. Heng buried the boy next to Ai and reflected that it was the 20th day on the island. He realized that the deaths of Ai and the boy seemed to follow a 40-day cycle, suggesting that their lifespans had somehow matched this pattern. He wondered if he would have to endure such unfortunate events repeatedly. Concluding that the third person he tried to save would only have 20 days to live, Heng decided against saving anyone else for the time being and focused on shooting practice. As he practiced and lay down feeling bored and lonely, he decided to build a raft. When he ventured to the ocean near the beach, he encountered a man again. The man seemed surprised to see Heng and asked for help. He explained that he had shot a small tree with an arrow that had passed through it, something Heng had witnessed before, and then had fainted. The man declined Heng's offer of coconut water and instead asked to get on the raft. Heng refused and returned to the island, deciding that he would only help someone again after 200 days. Heng went hunting for deer, and as he got closer, he spotted the herb Ai had mentioned. He realized that if he had searched better, Ai might have survived. The boy's death weighed on his mind, and Heng understood that any mistake could leave him isolated. While reflecting on this, Heng sensed danger and climbed a tree. He saw a leopard approaching the deer, so he jumped from the tree with his spear and successfully killed the leopard. On day 321, Heng encountered a boy named Bei and saved him. Bei inquired about their location, and Heng asked for his help to stay safe from the leopard. They decided to work together, and Heng promised to ensure Bei's survival. Noticing Bei's distress, Heng suggested it might be due to hunger and offered him some BBQ chicken. As Bei ate the BBQ chicken, he expressed his appreciation. Heng wondered what might cause Bei's death and considered keeping a close watch over him for the next 20 days to prevent any danger. Bei noticed Heng's attentiveness and thought Heng seemed like a good person, though he found Heng's behavior odd. The next morning, while Bei was cutting trees, he felt someone behind him and turned to find Heng watching him. No matter what Bei did, Heng seemed to be observing him closely. When Bei went to freshen up, Heng was still there, watching. Bei began to suspect that Heng might have romantic intentions. That night, Bei decided to leave, feeling sorry for Heng. When Heng woke up and noticed Bei was missing, he realized it was the 20th day since they had met. Determined not to lose another person, Heng set out to search for Bei. Meanwhile, Bei encountered a leopard and was terrified. Heng, exhausted from his search but unwilling to lose another person, heard Bei's voice calling for help and rushed toward the sound. Bei was running for his life, chased by the leopard. Just as the leopard was about to pounce, Heng arrived and shot the leopard with an arrow, killing it. Heng then asked if Bei was all right and explained that he had been trying to protect him from the very beginning. When he couldn't find Bei that night, Heng had been worried. Bei realized Heng had only been trying to keep him safe. He expressed his gratitude, saying he owed Heng 2 lives and would do whatever it took to repay him. Heng, however, reminded Bei that he was a man and asked him not to misconstrue his intentions. Bei chuckled and assured Heng he was just joking. Heng suggested they return home, and Bei complimented Heng as a reliable person. As Bei asked Heng to wait for him, Heng replied not to come any closer. Heng instructed Bei to rest while he went to BBQ some fish to replenish his nutrients. Heng had already prepared 100 fish for BBQ, so he wasn't concerned about running out. He began the process and, after a while, a screen appeared notifying him that he had leveled up. Heng realized that earning points was challenging and pondered how to best use them. He decided to set that aside for now and explore the nearby forest once Bei was healed, feeling excited about the adventure. As they explored, they reached a tribal area with numerous houses and signs of human activity. Heng wondered if anyone was still around but noticed that the place was covered in dust, indicating it had been deserted for a long time. He also found some costumes but chose not to mention them. Bei, scanning the area, warned Heng to be cautious of potential beasts. Just then, a leopard's paw landed on Bei, startling him. Bei urged Heng to run, but Heng calmly removed the leopard's head, revealing that he was wearing the leopard's skin he had found earlier. Bei was taken aback by Heng's calm demeanor and unexpected sense of fun in such a place. After that, Bei decided to play a prank on Heng. They came across a sacrificial altar, and as Heng climbed up to inspect it, he discovered a necklace and wondered about its significance. Just then, the system notified him that he had obtained a rabbit leg, the first item he had acquired, and he was curious about its use. Heng then noticed the tail of a leopard and became angry with Bei for trying to scare him, insisting that he wouldn't be frightened anymore. He grabbed the tail to pull it out, but suddenly a voice from the other side asked what he was doing. Heng realized that if Bei was with him, then he must have been pulling on a real leopard. To Heng's dismay, he saw that the real leopard was behind him, and 3 more leopards appeared as well. Heng asked Bei where he had gone, and Bei sheepishly replied that he had gone to pee. Heng then understood that he had been pulling on a real leopard's tail. Given the situation, Bei suggested they fight all the leopards, and Heng agreed, acknowledging that they had no other choice. As the leopards charged at them, Heng used his arrows to strike one in the eyes, allowing Bei to slash it with his dagger. They managed to defeat 1 leopard, but Heng realized there were too many and instructed Bei to split up. Bei asked what the plan was, and Heng told him to wait for an opportunity. As they separated, 2 leopards began chasing Bei, while Heng was pursued by 1. Heng set a trap and hid, listening for the leopard's approach. Hearing it, he prepared to attack, but the leopard came from behind. Heng attempted to stab it with his spear, but his exhaustion caused him to misalign the attack. Fearing that his spear might break and that the leopard might kill him, Heng decided to fight back with everything he had. He finally managed to stab the leopard, but it bit his shoulder before falling. Heng pushed the leopard away, and though he felt victorious, he was heavily injured. He first attended to his shoulder wound, managing to stop the bleeding. Realizing that he could only shoot 23 more arrows and that his spear was broken, Heng felt weakened and vulnerable. Worried about Bei, Heng heard Bei's desperate screams and realized that Bei was in grave danger. Heng rushed towards Bei, hoping he could reach him in time. As Bei faced the remaining leopards, an arrow flew through the air and struck one of the leopards. Bei looked up to see that it was Heng who had shot the arrow. Heng was injured and in significant pain, and he knew that he might die if he exposed himself, but he was determined not to let Bei die alone. A leopard slashed at Bei, fueling his anger. Determined not to die without taking revenge, Bei charged at the leopards alone. During the fight, Bei asked Heng if he was there. Heng thought to himself that he would certainly help if he weren't so injured. Although Bei was his companion, he was an NPC, and Heng was torn about what to do. Then Heng felt a presence and saw the boy he had met earlier. The boy scolded Heng for hesitating, pointing out that if Heng hadn't hesitated last time, Bei would have survived. He questioned why Heng was still hesitating, and why he hadn't died already. Heng apologized for his hesitation. I appeared and reminded Heng that there was no time left. He explained that emotions were dangerous and often led to failure. I told Heng that his arm couldn't pull the arrow because of his hesitation and fear. Both I and the boy urged Heng to fight back against the leopards. Reinvigorated by their encouragement, Heng prepared himself. As a leopard lunged at Bei, Heng took aim and shot the arrow, causing the leopard to fall back. Bei realized that it was Heng who had saved him. Heng faced the ferocious leopards, challenging them to a fight. Despite their injuries, the leopards continued attacking with relentless aggression. Heng instructed Bei to find the gallery board, giving him 5 minutes to do so. As Bei dashed off to search, Heng continued to battle the leopards, dodging their attacks despite growing fatigue and dwindling energy. As Heng fought, Bei called out to him. Heng looked up and saw Bei perched on a tree branch, but another leopard had appeared and was closing in on him. Heng swiftly took aim and shot the leopard, remembering a conversation from 78 days earlier. Bei had mentioned dealing with 2 leopards by creating a change in their strategy. The memory of their earlier discussion flashed through Heng's mind. Bei had said that if they encountered 2 leopards, they needed to make a tactical adjustment. Heng thought about how their plan resembled an idiom he knew. Back in the present, Bei leaped from the tree branch to attack one of the leopards chasing Heng, successfully killing it. Meanwhile, Heng aimed and shot the leopard that had been on the tree branch, killing it with a well-placed arrow to its mouth. Together, they had managed to defeat the remaining leopards. Bei, noticing Heng's injury to his ribcage, asked if he could take care of it. Heng, surprised by Bei's concern, realized that Bei had been aware of his injuries from the beginning. Bei explained that after Heng missed his first shot, the leopards had become even more aggressive, leading him to believe that Heng was doomed. Despite their dire situation, Bei had continued fighting alongside Heng. As they sat together on the beach, Bei encouraged Heng to rest and take it easy. Heng, reflecting on their victory over the leopards, acknowledged that they had successfully conquered the island. Later that night, as they both gazed at the moon from the side of the beach, Bei asked if they were going to sit there the entire night. Heng, feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion, expressed his desire to return home. The tranquility of the moonlit night contrasted with the challenges they had faced, making Heng ponder the journey ahead and the prospect of going back to a place where he could finally rest. He is stunned when he returns to the bar. The lady there informs him that she has 1 fewer corpse to handle. He asks if dying in the game would also mean dying in reality. She confirms this and mentions that Heng received an item during his first playthrough of the game. She offers to appraise it for him, explaining that it will cost 5 points. Heng agrees and considers how he will spend the points. The lady explains that players can trade with each other or purchase items. She shows him a box and asks him to place the necklace inside. Although the item's effects will not be visible, it's safer to use the box, which has isolation properties. Heng can use his points to buy from her. She advises him to return in 3 days, as the appraisal will take time. She also tells him to remember his name, and if he is concerned about other players discovering his identity, he should not let her take his card away. Heng takes the card and wonders about his password. She tells him to wait for 2 days, as humans do not adapt to instant changes. He agrees, and she warns him to be cautious of other players who might try to snatch items and points. As he left, he thought he wouldn't let his guard down in reality. He decided to rest and buy defense items and a bow the next day. When he reached his room to sleep, he chose to sleep on the floor instead of his bed. The next day, shirtless, he went to the receptionist to check out. He noticed everyone staring at him as if they wanted to snatch his points. A girl pointed at him and told her mother that he wasn't wearing a shirt. Afterwards, Heng returned to his dorm and wondered how Jiang would react to his late arrival. Upon opening the gate, he found Jiang packing and informed him that he hadn't replied to Jiang's messages. Heng apologized, explaining that his phone had been on silent. Jiang checked if Heng was alright, noting that although it had only been 1 night, Heng was acting strangely. He asked if something had happened. Heng was shocked to realize that only 1 night had passed in the real world, and he hadn't been on the island for long. Jiang was puzzled by Heng's reaction and told him to stop worrying. He mentioned that they were all going camping, and Heng should join them to relax. Heng decided to go for the recovery, so he agreed to join them. Jiang was surprised by Heng's calm acceptance. After packing their things, Jiang asked why Heng was carrying a bow and arrows, and why his interest had suddenly changed. He also asked Heng to help carry some items. Heng declined, explaining that he already had enough to carry, and questioned why Jiang had so many things. Jiang responded that there were a lot of items. Then, a girl called out to Jiang. Jiang introduced her to Heng, saying she was Xiao, his girlfriend, and pointed out another girl, Shen, who was known as the beauty of their school. He asked Heng if he was interested in Shen. Jiang introduced Heng to the group and mentioned that it had been difficult to invite him. Xiao asked them to load their things into the car. Seng and Wang also introduced themselves. Just then, a well-dressed boy with flowers arrived and asked Shen if she was free that day. He had booked a restaurant and invited her to join him. Shen ignored him and told her friends to get into the car. The boy grabbed her hand, insisting he was speaking to her. Heng stepped in to intervene, but Jiang pulled him aside and explained that Shen would handle it. Jiang revealed that the boy was the student council president and had connections with gangsters, advising Hung not to provoke him. Shen told the boy that he was blocking the way, and then they left. The boy became visibly angry. Later that night, they practiced shooting. Jiang came over and praised Hung's skills. Hung asked if Jiang wasn't playing games with the others. Jiang replied that the others were cooking the food, so he thought he would join Hung. Suddenly, Xiao arrived, looking worried. Shen was telling some men to leave, threatening to call the police. One of the men asked what Shen had said, then slapped her, causing her phone to fall. The boy with the flowers, showing no fear, broke the phone and said he wanted to see how she would call the police. He instructed his men to bring the two girls with them, and one of the men mentioned that the other girl would be for them. At that moment, Heng appeared from behind, aiming his arrow at them. He commanded them to leave immediately. The two girls looked worried, unsure of what to do as Heng's arrow seemed lethal. The leader of the group drew a knife and tried to calm them, telling them not to be scared. Hung shot the knife from his hand, causing it to fall. The leader then ordered his two men to kill Hung. As they charged at him, Hung kicked one of them. When the second one came at Heng with the knife, Jiang intervened, knocking the attacker aside and instructing Xiao to grab the knife. One of the men grabbed Heng's leg while the boss rushed to attack. Just then, time seemed to stop, allowing Heng to free himself. He recalled that his last entry into the game had been at 11 p.m., and the game's in-game time had been set for 20 days. During that period, notifications had been errors, extending the in-game time to 48 days, which equated to 24 hours. Heng wondered what Kronos had told him. He received a message about his reward, which he realized would be very useful. He planned to use the time to handle the current trouble. Heng decided to find the boy who had hired the three attackers, feeling that the boy would be close by. As Heng searched, he noticed two cars and wondered about their purpose. He checked the larger vehicle, which had a proper bed inside, and found the boy lying there. Heng discovered that Chung was looking at his phone and learned that this place was the base of the boys who had mistreated the girls, and it seemed that this was not their first offense. Heng pondered whether there was anything that could make them better. He then had an idea and made Chung drink a lot of water. Afterward, Hung came out, feeling that Chung's malevolent deeds had been atoned for. He then saw Chung's sports car, which delighted him. He drove it for a while, enjoying the experience. After returning the car, Hung thought the extra 24 hours were an incredible advantage. Although he left a few scratches on the car, he considered them minor compared to Chung's situation. Heng then focused on dealing with Chung's men. He wondered if they were exhausted and used a burned stick to brand one of them. He forced the boss to attack the third man standing there. When Heng's extra 24 hours ended, Wang had already called the police for assistance. One of the boys had a burned hand, and the boss had killed his own men. The police arrived and took all four into custody. Jiang wondered why things had escalated so badly, while Xiao provided the location of the camp. Shen commented that it was a matter of karma. Wang apologized for revealing the camp's address to Chung, and Chung promised to buy her the lipstick she wanted. Wang accepted responsibility for her mistakes. After everything, Heng was sitting at the bar when he received a text from Jiang, informing him that he had given Heng's WeChat contact to Shen. Heng then received a friend request from Shen. The bartender lady approached him and mentioned that she had analyzed his item. He asked about its effects, and she told him it had positive effects, so he didn't need to worry. She also promised to notify him if it had any negative effects. Heng inquired about the price of the wooden box. The lady explained that they had many boxes, but he wouldn't be able to bring that particular box into the game. Heng decided not to buy it and wondered about the luck associated with his locket. He then went to the lottery and bought $10 worth of scratch-off tickets, but was disappointed to find that he lost $100, receiving only $60 in return. He hoped to win a reward and considered trying again if the item wasn't limited to one. Although he saw an opportunity to win an iPad, he ended up with less desirable prizes. As he was deciding what food to buy, a man rushed past him, pushing him aside to place his order. Heng was shocked and thought that his luck had run out. However, after the man left with his order, the lady at the counter told Heng that he was the 199th customer, so he would receive anything under 109 yuan for free. Heng thought that perhaps his luck was turning around. As time stopped and he walked down the road, he decided to head back, take a shower, and get some sleep. He felt as though someone was following him, so he asked who was there. Realizing that the presence he felt was just a cat that had disappeared, he dismissed his concern. Heng called Kronos, who informed him that he was currently busy. Heng then inquired if there were any types of moving monsters. Kronos replied that there was indeed one called Moresby, but it had fled the area. Heng encountered the monster and asked Kronos what he should do. Kronos advised him to run away until time resumed and the monster would eventually stop chasing him. The call then disconnected. Heng hesitated, not wanting to run and appear frightened. Kronos had mentioned that the monster was highly intelligent and should not be treated like a simple beast. Determined, Heng began to run. As he covered some distance, he wondered if the monster would be able to catch up, considering there were still 25 minutes left before time resumed. He decided to find a place to hide and entered a public restroom, hoping it would be a safe refuge. Kronos texted him, saying he didn't need to hide because the monster would continue chasing its prey until it was dead. Heng opened the restroom door to escape, only to find the monster already inside. He quickly closed the door as the monster tried to force it open. Heng was furious with Kronos for not providing this crucial information earlier and worried that the monster might break through the door. Knowing he had only one chance, Heng acted swiftly. He flung open the door to make the monster fall, then dashed out and spotted a bike. After paying for it, he rode away just as the monster lunged at him. Heng noticed that the monster was still pursuing him, and although it couldn't keep up with his speed, he needed to maintain his escape for another 13 minutes to be safe. As he rode, he felt the bike slowing down due to the diminishing battery power. The monster leaped to attack, but Heng evaded it by maneuvering the bike, eventually falling into a river. He hoped that the monster didn't know how to swim. When Heng emerged from the river, he discovered that the monster could not swim. With only 5 minutes left before he was safe, he needed to find a way to hold on. Heng headed towards an area with electrical equipment, and the monster continued to chase him. Hearing a man's voice from a nearby room claiming to have found a place to hide and be safe, the monster followed the sound. It entered the room, only to find that the voice was coming from Heng's phone, which was playing a recording. Meanwhile, Heng was running away, and, as he crossed a wall, the monster appeared and pursued him. Heng got stuck at the wall, and the monster jumped to attack him. As time resumed, a guard approached Heng and asked what he was doing there. Heng urged him to leave quickly, warning that there was a monster nearby. The guard was skeptical and questioned if Heng was a thief. He ordered Heng to get down. Heng was concerned that the monster might catch up with him, but he managed to avoid it. He called Kronos, seeking help and asking what he should do next. Kronos informed him that the monster would not be able to find Heng the following day, as it would be forgotten by humans and weakened. It might be a while before the monster appeared again. Heng inquired about Kronos' location. Kronos replied that he was overseas, where he had found a method to deal with Moresby. He reassured Heng to stop worrying and wait for his return. Heng returned to the bar, where the bartender lady asked if he really wanted to start the next round of the game. He decided to visit the dungeon every month. The lady remarked on how rare it was to see someone so energetic and inquired about his motivation. Heng explained that after encountering the monster and planning to assist in 2 days, he wanted to go to the dungeon to calm down and improve his abilities by conquering it. He also expressed curiosity about how she made the wine with its unusual color and taste, which resembled poison. Heng was then transported to Kabukicho, a bustling street in Tokyo. The vibrant area contrasted sharply with the unknown deep forest he had been in. He found that he still had his wallet and phone. Just then, a girl approached him, saying she had been looking for him. She apologized for getting lost while buying something to eat. Heng responded that it was fine, and referred to her simply as the girl, not by her name. Annoyed, she introduced herself as Yuzi and commented on Heng's rudeness. Heng then asked Yuzi where they were. She explained that they were in a street notorious for gangsters and troubled teenagers. Yuzi suggested they leave the area quickly, and Heng agreed. As they were leaving, they witnessed a man aggressively kicking another man and scolding him. Yuzi intervened, asking them to spare the man. Heng was impressed by her bravery. The boss of the area arrived, reprimanding everyone and stating that people without knowledge of cars were not welcome. Heng was intimidated by the boss's presence. Yuzi helped the old man away and checked if he was okay. She apologized to Heng and mentioned that she wanted to get the man back home, asking if they could explore Tokyo another day. Heng agreed and helped the man to his feet. The old man clung to Heng's hand, insisting he wasn't drunk and wanted to drink more. As Heng continued to assist the old man, he praised Yuzi for being so helpful to strangers. Yuzi revealed that the old man was her father, which shocked Heng. The scene then shifted to a car competition where the results were announced. Surprisingly, the results matched the predictions made by the old man. The man who had kicked the old man was stunned to learn that the old man had only made 3 incorrect answers. The scene shifts to a fan club where a cute girl is inundated with requests to join. Heng and Yuzi leave the event to attend a car race, followed by a drift seminar. At the seminar, a man offers Heng a leadership position if he contributes a car. Heng asks for some time to consider the offer. Later, Heng and Yuzi go out to eat. Heng mentions his desire to learn how to drive, noting his concern about not finding a driving school and how he will win the sports car competition and become the champion. He realizes he needs to find a way to earn money. Yuzi asks if something is wrong, and Heng replies that he's fine. He then asks about her father. Yuzi prefers not to discuss him, revealing that her mother left when Yuzi was very young, and she only has a picture of her mother. Heng apologizes for bringing up a sensitive topic, and Yuzi shows him the picture. Heng comments on the coolness of the car in the picture, which Yuzi questions. Heng explains that all boys love cars and asks if her father was a sports car racer. Yuzi responded that her father didn't know how to drive and couldn't even deliver goods. Heng asked if he could see the picture, but Yuzi questioned his interest. He insisted, and she reluctantly agreed. The next morning, Heng went to Takeda's place and knocked on the door. Takeda, surprised by the early visit, initially considered not answering. When he saw Heng, he started to close the door again. Heng mentioned that Takeda seemed to dislike the Black Link and the Dear Daiginjo sake, prompting Takeda to reopen the door and let him in. Takeda, somewhat wary, initially warned Heng not to come in as he was Yuzi's boyfriend, but then accepted the beer Heng had brought. Heng clarified that he wasn't Yuzi's boyfriend. He was there to learn driving. Takeda suggested Heng find a fish shop for that purpose. Heng remarked that the usual fish shop owner wouldn't be proficient in English. Takeda, annoyed, asked Heng to leave if there was nothing else. Heng then brought up Takeda's past achievements and questioned why he had changed his name and disappeared. Takeda insisted Heng leave, but Heng reassured him that he wouldn't mention this to Yuzi. Takeda asked if Heng was threatening him. Heng assured him to stay calm, explaining that he only wanted a good coach to teach him driving. He offered to help with deliveries for free. Takeda, accepting the offer, left Heng with a year's worth of delivery tasks. Takeda then outlined 3 conditions. First, Heng must not call him by his real name. Second, Takeda would be Heng's boss. And third, Heng must not let Yuzi know about this arrangement. Heng agreed to all conditions and asked Takeda to help him obtain a driving license. Takeda was frustrated, questioning how Heng could be so casual about the situation. Heng explained that his Japanese driving license was only valid for certain vehicles, but he knew how to modify sports cars. Takeda decided that he would need to modify a car for Heng and told him to return after a few days. Heng, relieved, spent the next 3 days exploring Tokyo with Yuzi. On the 4th day, he met with Takeda, who presented the modified car. It was a 1982 model, and Heng was surprised by the choice. Takeda highlighted the car's impressive features, and then had Heng take it for a test drive. As Heng started the car, Takeda considered getting insurance for him, thinking that if Heng were to die, Takeda would benefit financially. Heng began driving slowly, and Takeda warned him not to treat the car like a toy, emphasizing the seriousness of the situation. Heng inquired about their destination, and Takeda replied that he would send him the address. He also reminded Heng to be cautious, as Japanese police were very strict with unlicensed drivers. Heng agreed and drove off. The next day, he delivered the goods and mentioned that he was now faster. Takeda told him not to be too proud. Heng showed Takeda a book on car theory and asked about it. Takeda glanced at the book and dismissed it, saying it was useless. Heng became emotional, as he had no other means of learning. Takeda invited him upstairs to show his collection on the laptop. He asked Heng to open the L300 Chan folder, which contained a lot of material. Takeda suggested Heng copy and research it later, and then promised to demonstrate some real skills. As Heng drove, Takeda taught him how careful one must be behind the wheel. After a while, Takeda stopped explaining because most of the theory was irrelevant. He then took Heng to a special place for hands-on learning, noting that it was a good location with few visitors. Takeda showed Heng a teaching video and asked him to watch it. Heng inquired whether Takeda would personally demonstrate the techniques. Takeda replied that he couldn't hold the steering wheel and assured Heng not to worry, as he wouldn't give him a difficult task. Afterward, Takeda went fishing, something he hadn't done in a long time. As Takeda returned in the evening after fishing, Heng informed him that he had damaged the car again. Heng apologized, but Takeda told him not to worry about it, as Heng would be responsible for the repair costs. He added that if Heng delivered the goods in the future, he would be allowed to use the car for practice as well. The scene shifts to a month later at the racetrack, where numerous sports cars were lined up. A lady began the race, wishing everyone good luck, and announced that the winner would receive a special reward. She then noticed that a van had also arrived. The racers were stunned when they saw the van and were instructed to avoid it. One boy was particularly shocked as the van quickly caught up to him, driven by what seemed to be an expert driver. Heng wondered if they believed he was the initial driver involved in the drag race on the mountain road. Passing them all, Heng continued forward until he reached a shop, where the man refused to take the items since no order had been placed. The man told Heng to contact his boss. Heng discovered that Takeda had placed the rocks to improve his driving skills. He tried calling Takeda, but there was no answer, leading Heng to wonder if Takeda was drunk. Exhausted, Heng decided to head back, intending to return the van and get some rest. He noticed some people were following him. One of them informed his boss that everyone was gathered and instructed the others to prepare for action. Heng approached, asking what action was needed and whether they were searching for someone. The man told him to leave. Heng replied that if they were looking for Takeda, it was related to him. One of the men punched Heng, but Heng dodged the blow. As he grabbed the man's hand, he noticed an eye symbol and asked who they were. The man ordered his associates to capture Heng. Heng shoved the attacker, causing him to fall onto the others. Just then, Takeda arrived in a car and told Heng to get in. They both quickly departed. The man contacted his boss, reporting that Takeda had left and advising not to panic, as Takeda would not escape. The scene shifts to Yuzi, who has just finished her part-time job and is heading back to school. She has prepared her favorite bubble tea and looks forward to chatting when she gets there. As she crosses the road, a car pulls up and several men get out, approaching her. She asks what they are doing. One of the men points a gun at her and demands she get in the car. Suddenly, an arrow flies through the air, striking one of the men. Heng calls out to Yuzi to come over. Another man aims his gun at Heng. Yuzi quickly hits the man with a can and starts running. Heng uses an arrow to take down the man who was aiming at him. Yuzi, still running, asks Heng what's happening. Heng tells her to get in the car, saying there's no time to explain. As they drive away, the pursuers try to catch up with them. Yuzi urges Heng to go faster, noticing that the attackers are armed and wondering what their motive is. Heng explains that they are dealing with bad guys, so it's normal for them to have guns. The attackers use their vehicle to try to force Heng off the road, but Heng skillfully maneuvers his car to evade them. Despite the attacks, he manages to escape using his driving skills. Yuzi remarks on Heng's bravery for handling the situation so well and asks what is going on. Heng tells her that they will explain everything once they find her father. Yuzi is surprised to learn that this situation is related to her father. They arrived at a room where Takeda was waiting. He was relieved and happy to see Yuzi safe. She told him about the group of intimidating people she had encountered and how Heng had saved her. She then asked Takeda what kind of trouble he was in and why Heng was with him. Heng explained that he was learning driving from Takeda, which was related to the racing. Yuzi was shocked to hear that Heng was being taught by Takeda. Takeda elaborated that the incidents in question occurred before Yuzi was born. When he met her mother, he was a racer with numerous championships and international matches under his belt. Yuzi's mother grew increasingly fond of him. Takeda reminisced about the past when Asano was furious with him. He recalled how Asano's driving was reckless and dangerous. Despite his friend's warnings not to race with Asano, Takeda agreed to the challenge. During the race, Takeda's opponents began attacking him, and at one point, a truck came barreling towards him. That day, Takeda lost the first race of his life, and his friend was tragically killed when he was run over by the truck. The experience was so traumatic that Takeda was paralyzed by fear and stopped racing altogether, unable to control the steering wheel anymore. Yuzi began to understand what had happened. Heng asked about Asano's fate. Takeda explained that Asano was left paralyzed and was in Sakai Hospital. Takeda had not anticipated that anyone would come searching for him after so long. Heng requested Yuzi to take him to Sakai Hospital, and she agreed. Takeda was shocked by this and urged them to go alone, advising against involving his daughter. Takeda asked Yuzi to take her mother and move to the countryside for safety. Heng questioned whether they would be safer there and suggested that it would be better to seek help, assuring her that he would protect Yuzi. Takeda wondered why Heng was going to such lengths. Heng explained that he was a delivery man for Takeda Seafood and needed to learn racing to continue his work. If Takeda remained hidden in a small room, Heng would have no way to learn racing. When they inquired about Asano at Sakai Hospital, a nurse informed them that no one by that name was present and suggested they ask someone else. Heng asked if there was another hospital named Sakai. Yuzi replied that there was only one Sakai hospital. As they were discussing this, a sweeper approached them and asked if they were connected to Asano. Heng explained that they were from a high school racing club and wanted to interview Asano. The sweeper revealed that he was the brother of one of Asano's underlings. He was surprised that people still remembered Asano, who had passed away about 5 years ago. The sweeper described Asano's condition before he died, explaining that he had cared for him until the end. Heng asked if Asano had any family. The sweeper explained that when Asano had the accident, the Sharingan, an eye tattoo, was a permanent mark and could not be erased. The sweeper followed Asano because of this mark and promised to share more about Asano's glorious past once his work was done. After the sweeper left, Yuzi asked Heng if Takeda had hidden something from them. Heng confirmed that they had been misled. Asano had no family or relatives to seek revenge for him, and the attackers were not from the Sharingan. Yuzi wondered who the attackers were. Heng explained that Takeda's grudge was not related to selling fish or prawns. To uncover the truth, they would need to consult experts within the racing circle. Heng and Yuzi arrived at the shop from which Takeda had been kicked out. The shopkeeper told them that people who didn't know about cars weren't allowed there. Heng remarked that they were likely to be kicked out just like the drunk man had been. Realizing who they were, the shopkeeper agreed to let them meet the old man. Heng assured the shopkeeper there wouldn't be any trouble, but mentioned he was there to ask Furu about something specific. Heng inquired about the gang members with the eye mark. Furu explained that there had once been a group called Sharingan, which had been disbanded years ago and was considered a mere pastime. Heng then asked if Tokyo had any professional or underground car teams with significant ability. Furu responded that there were rumors about such teams and that their leader had a commonly known surname, though he couldn't remember it clearly. Heng decided to leave with Yuzi. As they were leaving, Furu asked about the meeting with the old man. Heng replied that he would bring Yuzi back next time he visited. Back in Takeda's room, Heng found that Takeda was missing. The scene shifted to a location where Takeda was being taken to meet their boss. Takeda realized he had been captured by Sharingan. The boss told Takeda that he was blind to the situation. As Takeda saw her, he remarked that she wouldn't be able to hide anything. He noted that when he and Liang were racing, she was only about 12 or 13 years old. The boss struck him, demanding that he not mention her brother's name. She accused Takeda of causing her brother's death and declared that it was time for him to pay. Takeda responded, offering her the chance to exact her revenge by shooting him. and mentioned that it had been a long time since he had enjoyed a peaceful sleep. Suddenly, something struck the boss's hand, causing her gun to fall. She ordered her men to apprehend whoever had intervened. They soon found Heng and surrounded him. Heng approached from behind the boss and, aiming at her, demanded that she put down her weapon. The boss told Takeda that his disciple was just like him. Takeda clarified that Heng was only there to deliver goods and asked him how he had arrived. The boss then instructed Heng to lower his gun, and a man brought Yuzi into the room. Takeda was furious with Heng for bringing Yuzi into the situation and threatened that Heng would not survive if anything happened to her. Yuzi quickly intervened, asking Takeda not to blame Heng, as it was her decision to come with him. Takeda apologized to Yuzi for the trouble he had caused her. Takeda then demanded that the boy, who was one of the boss's subordinates, kill him as punishment for Liang's death. The boss questioned whether Takeda had truly committed the crime, but proposed a 2v2 match with her subordinates. She stated that if Takeda won, she would release them. If they lost, Takeda would lose both his daughter and Heng. Takeda insisted that he would no longer drive, but the boss shot a gun very close to Yuzi, demanding to know if Takeda thought he could choose the terms. Reluctantly, Takeda agreed to the challenge, provided that Yuzi was not harmed. The boss instructed them to be taken to a car warehouse. Upon arrival, she showed them 4 sports cars and asked them to select any 2. If they were not satisfied, she would also provide components for modifications. Heng examined the engines and noted that the braking systems, exhaust pipes, and other modifications were all top off the line, commenting that he had never seen such professional upgrades. Takeda remarked that it would be unusual for Heng to have encountered such advanced modifications before, as these cars were the work of professional sports car team members. Even he would not perform any better than these experts. Heng remarked that the revenge the lady sought seemed to involve letting them drive the sports cars and questioned what she was really after. Takeda explained that her plan was to destroy them by using the modified cars she had provided, holding Yuzi as a hostage, and allowing Heng, who had learned driving from Takeda, to use the enhanced vehicles to defeat them. Takeda took full responsibility for dragging Heng into this situation. Heng told Takeda not to apologize, asserting that he would shoulder the blame himself. He acknowledged that the past couldn't be changed, but urged Takeda to remember that he still had a chance to save Yuzi, and should not forget that he owed her. With that, they took the cars and prepared for the race. As they arrived at the race location, Heng realized it was the same place where the accident had occurred. He suspected that Xiao was determined to destroy someone completely. A man advised the girl not to force the issue and to follow his lead, promising to find an opportunity. Takeda reflected on the situation, feeling that he deserved the revenge, and that his own stubbornness and arrogance had led to his friend's death. He believed it was his fate to die there. Takeda then contacted Heng, urging him to demonstrate his skills and stressing the importance of winning the match. As the race began, Heng noticed that even though Takeda hadn't driven for a long time, he was still exceptionally skilled. It was clear that Takeda had made up his mind to win, and Heng needed to maintain his speed and keep up with him. However, one of the other racers intentionally bumped his car into Heng's, stating that they had received Heng's car previously, and it was time for Heng to pay. Heng realized that Xiaolin's underling was incredibly skilled, likely at least a level 2 racer, and possibly even a top-notch level 3 Japanese racer. Heng surmised that Xiao, the boss of all these racers, would be at that level as well. He wondered if he would survive the race against such formidable opponents. The man attempted to force Heng into a collision with a truck, which fueled Heng's anger. The man taunted Heng, saying that he would make Heng experience what a real death race felt like. Observing this, Takeda remarked that the opponents were weak and maneuvered his car to intercept the man, positioning himself in front of the truck. Takeda advised Heng not to get intimidated. Heng apologized for any disappointment, but assured Takeda that he would continue to keep up with the race. Heng saw Xiao move ahead, and the boy was now safe, having done his best to slow down the others. Xiao told them to leave the rest to her. As Takeda and Heng were slowed down, they lost sight of Xiao. Heng felt that they had lost and wondered if he was a burden to Takeda. Takeda asked Heng how long he had been driving. Heng replied that it had been almost half a year. Takeda then explained that he had taught Heng not just the fundamentals and theory of driving, but also many other things, including not to give up. He didn't care if Heng had come to learn driving to make money or to seek death. What mattered was that when Heng grasped the steering wheel, he should embody the ambition of a true racer. Determined, Heng decided not to apply the brakes and to keep following Takeda. This was Takeda's lesson to persist and demonstrate true racing spirit. They continued racing ahead, and Heng marveled at how Takeda didn't slow down his car or apply the brakes, an impressive feat. Takeda instructed Heng not to daze around, emphasizing that they had only 7 kilometers left and needed to stay focused. With that, Takeda accelerated even more, leaving Heng in awe. Xiao, seeing them approach, declared that she would defeat them. She set up obstacles with cars on the road, and Takeda told Heng to watch carefully. Although Heng was frightened, he managed to navigate safely and remarked on how crazy Xiao was. Takeda explained that Xiao had been close to her brother, and his death had been incredibly tough on her over the years. Her hatred and desire for revenge against Takeda had driven her to this point. Takeda was determined not to let her downfall happen and to end this race without losing to her. Xiao challenged them to catch her if they could and vowed to make them repent in hell. She attempted to attack, but Takeda and Heng skillfully dodged her strikes. Despite several more attempts, Xiao's attacks were consistently avoided. Eventually, she collided with a truck. Takeda told Heng that there was nothing more to teach him and instructed him to take good care of Yuzi. Xiao recalled the past when Takeda had visited Liang's home. They were playing games, and Xiao had asked Takeda to leave. Takeda had replied that Liang had invited him, so Xiao had no right to chase him away. Liang had intervened, saying that Takeda had spent all the competition rewards, and if Liang didn't bring Takeda back, he would spend the night on the roadside. Despite Xiao's dislike for Takeda, he was Liang's best friend. Takeda had urged Xiao to treat him like a brother, promising that he would die for her if necessary. This had only made Xiao angrier, and Liang had even hit Xiao in frustration. She snapped out of her memories and saw Takeda pushing her car to safety. Takeda had shouted to Liang that he was coming. Heng had managed to stop Takeda's car from crashing and pulled over to the side. Heng urged Takeda not to rush to his death, and Takeda admitted that there was nothing more to teach Heng. However, Heng hadn't yet mastered Takeda's tail flick maneuver. Xiao asked Takeda if Liang had risked his life to save him back then. Takeda apologized for the past, and Xiao, overcome with emotion, realized her mistake. She cried as she understood that she had been wrong about Takeda all these years. After the race, Xiao disappeared, and Takeda closed his repair shop, retreating to his hometown. He handed his car over to Heng for the last 3 months, allowing Heng to hone his driving skills. A local boy was frustrated with Heng's driving and vowed to defeat him someday. Meanwhile, Heng's driving skills approached level 3, and with Yuzi's help, he had mastered the basics of daily Japanese language. The time came for Heng and Yuzi to leave. As they packed up their belongings, Takeda approached them. He told Heng that Yuzi had been kidnapped and that they should leave quickly. Yuzi, confused, protested that Takeda's words were nonsense. Heng, undeterred, began to finalize their departure. Takeda inquired if they were heading to China and noted that leaving so abruptly would ensure they wouldn't be bothered anymore. Heng thanked Takeda for his care and support. Before they left, Yuzi handed Heng a game item, the Peace Talisman, a cherished memento from her mother. She hoped it would bring Heng good fortune. Heng hesitated, feeling the talisman was too precious, but Yuzi kissed him, making it clear she wanted him to have it. Heng returns to the bar and asks for a lemon water. The bartender responds with a suggestion for something with more flavor. A lady congratulates Heng on advancing past the second round and comments that it seems he's been through an unusual journey. Heng agrees and hands her the item he wants analyzed. She remarks on his luck in obtaining it. After taking a sip of the drink she gave him, Heng mentions that he's leaving. The lady reminds him that everything he has experienced was just part of the game. Stepping outside, Heng ponders whether it really was just a game, and wonders if Yuzi actually came to meet him in China. He checks his phone and finds a message from Kronos, who is in the city. Heng heads to the maid cafe where Kronos wants to meet him. As Heng arrives, Kronos is already there. They get into a car and drive off, with Heng reflecting that he never expected to be a chauffeur for his work partner. Kronos tells Heng not to act so surprised, suggesting that he was testing whether Heng's dungeon training had been useful. Kronos then offers Heng a piece of candy, but Heng declines. Kronos asks what else Heng knows besides driving. Heng replied that his skills in wild survival, archery, and driving were all at level 2, and he had obtained a new karate skill from the previous dungeon, though it was only at level 0. Kronos commented that it wasn't a bad start, and that Heng would likely use these skills soon. Heng asked if Kronos wasn't going to introduce him to these skills first. Kronos explained that the monster with the time attribute, which had nearly been eradicated, had developed a method to escape its demise by manipulating time. This disruption in time balance was what led to the present situation. Heng was surprised that such a monster existed in the real world. Kronos confirmed it, noting that many had suffered similar fates. But Heng need not worry. Once the monster had lost its belief, it became weak, and dealing with it would have been easy when Kronos was at his peak. Heng inquired about the current situation. Kronos admitted that he couldn't handle it alone and would need to find a helper. Heng felt reassured hearing this. Kronos mentioned that their destination was already arranged, and as they got out of the car, Heng noted that Kronos had already informed them that they were going to kill the monster. Kronos said there was no need to call for the monster. Instead, he had left a time magic on Heng and instructed him to find some delicious food. Kronos assured Heng that the monster would surely come looking for him. Heng realized that Kronos was using him as bait. Kronos told him not to panic, as they had the ultimate weapon. Heng noticed the suitcase containing what appeared to be useless items, and remarked that Kronos had gone overseas just to bring back these seemingly trivial things. Kronos responded, telling Heng not to underestimate them. He revealed that the suitcase held the legendary Longinus spear, known as the God Killer, though he wondered where the second spear was. Heng guessed it would be a 502 tape and warned Kronos to fix it quickly, or they would both be in danger. Kronos assured Heng that it would be resolved soon and asked him not to be shocked by the impressive display that was about to come. Heng prepared his bow and arrow and moved ahead. Just then, the monster appeared. Heng tried to dodge and attack the monster with an arrow, but the creature grabbed the arrow and broke it. As the monster lunged to attack Heng, he shot another arrow at its shoulder to slow it down. However, the monster used its muscles to force the arrow out of its body. Heng was stunned to see the monster still transforming. The monster then punched Heng, sending him sprawling. As it moved in to stab him, a lightning spear appeared and struck the monster, killing it. Heng got to his feet, and Kronos asked if he thought the display was impressive. Heng admitted that he had begun to suspect their cooperation. Kronos denied it, explaining that, as Heng's mentor, he needed to test Heng's combat skills to ensure he could handle the challenges ahead. Heng was shocked, and pointed out that he had almost been killed. The monster continued to attack, and Heng was knocked down again. Kronos mentioned that there was another one. Heng was alarmed to see that Kronos was also targeted by the second monster. The creature grabbed Kronos and lifted him up. Heng drove the car into the monster, causing it to fall. He then repeatedly ran it over, slamming it against the wall several times. Kronos remarked that it was a new car he had bought, and that the loan wasn't fully paid off yet, making it quite mushy. Heng asked if Kronos was satisfied with his skills. Kronos replied that Heng's performance was acceptable, but not exceptional. He then questioned Heng about the Moresby Brains bone, which was his reward, a valuable game item. Heng asked if this reward was compensation for the damage done to his car. Kronos said the matter was settled and advised Heng not to rely on his car for such tasks. He suggested Heng keep the reward to himself and focus on becoming stronger more quickly. When Heng returned to his dorm, Jung mentioned that they were discussing Heng's arrival. Heng inquired about the negative things being said behind his back. Jung directed him to the campus forum, where news was spreading about the prettiest girl getting into a rich boy's car for money or excitement. Heng was puzzled and asked how this was related to him. A boy commented that after the girl Jung left him and Wei behind, Heng was the only one who made it to the campus. He was introduced to the prettiest girl on campus and later seen getting spoiled by a rich guy. Heng clarified that the rumors were not as they thought. He and Shen had their own lives, and there was no need to worry about her. He then asked if they were all just sitting around with nothing to do. Jung agreed, mentioning that they needed to prepare for the upcoming English language semester test. Heng said it wasn't worth working too hard on, as he usually scored around 60 points in English. Jung informed him that, since he had missed the English class on the same day, the teacher planned to deduct 30 points from his score. If he didn't find a way to get 90 points, he would fail. Heng was shocked and realized that, amid everything going on, he had almost forgotten he was still a university student. While sitting in the library, Heng reflected on the incident with Shen and wondered why it was on his mind. Just then, Shen arrived and asked if she could sit there. Heng agreed and inquired if she had come to study. Shen confirmed, mentioning that the English test was coming up soon. Heng started to talk to Shen about the campus forum, but she received a call in the middle of their conversation. She answered and informed Heng that she would be busy for a few days and would see him next time. She apologized for the interruption, got up, and left. Heng thought about how Shen had her own life and wondered if it was even his concern. Later that night, Heng was with his friends, reflecting on how this situation had become his concern. He questioned why he had to be alone while they went out to buy BBQ and beer, especially when he still had to study for the semester test. Jang mentioned that it was a rare celebration. One of the boys suggested Heng go back to the dormitory to study and also enjoy a drink. Heng replied that it was just a semester test, so he didn't see the reason to celebrate. Jang pointed out that it would be the first time Heng might fail. At that moment, Heng heard a voice asking someone to return her phone. He wondered if the voice sounded familiar. The boys were asking Shen to join them for some fun, but Jiang remarked that they were international students who often bullied others. Seeing Heng approach the group, Jiang asked why he was heading over there. Heng asked the boys to return the girl's phone. The second boy questioned Heng's problem and what he wanted. Heng repeated his request for the phone. A friend of Heng's commented that it looked like a fight was about to break out. The black boy shoved Heng, trying to intimidate him. Angered, Heng kicked him down and demanded the phone be returned to the girl. When the second boy attacked Heng responded by kicking him down as well. Heng's friends were impressed, not expecting him to be so strong. Heng returned the phone to the girl, who thanked him and praised his strength. Zhang noted that Heng had started an international confrontation and remarked that with so many girls around, there was no need to focus on just one. He added that the girl wasn't bad at all. The three boys left Heng, saying they would come by the dorm after the celebration. The girl introduced herself as Asuka. During their conversation, Heng realized that Asuka knew Japanese because he had studied abroad in Japan, specifically in Tokyo. Asuka mentioned that Tokyo was her hometown. Heng asked if she knew anyone named Yuzi in Tokyo. Asuka said she didn't and inquired if Yuzi was Heng's friend. Heng confirmed this and thought that since Shen had her own life and Asuka wasn't Yuzi, he could finally move on from his distraction. After studying hard and revising the English lessons he had learned from Bei, Heng felt prepared for the semester test. He completed the test in record time, which left Jiang shocked at how quickly Heng had submitted it. Heng then returned to the bar where the bartender lady told him she had analyzed the item he had brought. She said it was another valuable item and expressed higher expectations for him. Heng replied that she was overpraising him and that the item was just a stroke of luck. He then asked to start the new dungeon. He was transferred to a snowy location where cold winds blew fiercely. Heng wondered where he was. Heng found that the survival dungeon was